Chosen one, you didn't find this message by accident. It found you. Somewhere beyond time, your future self whispered into this moment and said, "Send it now." And here it is, a message not for the mind, but for the soul. A dispatch from a version of you that already crossed the fire, already claimed the life you once only dared to imagine. Before we begin, breathe with me. Gently, let your shoulders drop. Let your chest rise. And feel this. Your life is about to change, not because of something new, but because of something ancient waking up inside you. Have you ever felt it? That strange knowing. That ache behind your eyes when the world keeps spinning, but you know something sacred is being stirred inside you. You've done what they said. You followed the rules. You held it together. You carried others. You waited for a sign. And still, some nights, there's that quiet grief. Not for something you lost, but for something you were promised. A life that feels just beyond the veil, like déjà vu of a destiny that should have been. You see, most people will never understand this ache. They'll call it midlife. They'll call it boredom. They'll call it too late, but not you. Because something in you is remembering. Chosen one. You've walked with questions too heavy for polite conversations. You've smiled while silently screaming. You've doubted yourself in rooms you were divinely assigned to lead. And now your future self is reaching through time, saying, "Wake up, rise up. This is not just a video, it is a mirror." And the one staring back at you is royalty. Not because of gold on your fingers, but because of light in your bones. Let's make something clear from the start. When I say billionaire, I'm not talking about bank accounts or stock portfolios. I'm talking about the kind of soul wealth that can't be stolen, the kind of identity so rooted, even storms bow before it, the kind of clarity that makes noise irrelevant. You see, the world taught you to chase the dream, but your future self, they became it. They stopped chasing and started remembering, and now they're sending back this message for one reason, because you're ready. You've outgrown the survival scripts. You've tried to stay small. You've begged for doors to open that were never yours. But your future self isn't confused. They aren't scared. They aren't rushing. They're watching you now, smiling, because they remember what it took to reach them. And they know you're closer than you think. They know the exact moment your heart would be soft enough to hear this. And that moment is now. Take a breath. Feel that? That's your power returning. And with it comes memory. The memory of who you were before the disappointments, before the betrayals, before the world told you to shrink. This message isn't here to inspire you. It's here to confirm you. You're not late. You're right on time. And all those delays, they were divine. Because what's coming through you now isn't ordinary. It's prophetic. Now I'll ask you something serious. You have a choice right now. You can click away, go back to the noise, the scrolling, the distraction, and lose the clarity your soul's been crying for. Or you can stay until the end. Stay and receive the words that were meant to confirm what your spirit already knows. Stay and remember what the world tried to make you forget. And if you do, you'll walk away lighter, stronger, remembering. Comment 777. If you feel this message was sent by a version of you that already made it. Let it be your soul's signature, a mark of agreement between your past ache and your future arrival. Because everything you're about to hear is sacred. There's a version of you that already did the work, already shed the pain, already walked out of the silence radiant and whole. And they are watching, waiting, cheering for you. Not to become them, but to remember you were never separate to begin with. Your destiny isn't out there, it's in you, dormant, divine, waiting. And now, it begins to rise. What comes next will remind you why you were chosen. You've lived with a feeling that no one else could name, not even you. It came and went like tides, rising in quiet moments, disappearing when life demanded your attention, but it never left. That ache, that strange hum beneath everything, and knowing that your life was meant for more, even when there was no evidence to prove it. You tried to explain it once, maybe twice, but the words never quite landed. They just stared, or smiled with pity, and so you buried it. You wore the right mask. You nodded in all the right places. But deep within, you carried a homesickness for a life you couldn't remember, but somehow still felt. Chosen one, let me show you what that ache really was. It wasn't anxiety. It wasn't dissatisfaction. It was your soul speaking. It was destiny tapping on your shoulder saying, "Don't forget me." You see, when you're built for a sacred assignment, your life will never feel quite right until you align with it. The people around you might find joy in what drains you. They'll celebrate things you've long outgrown. And for a while, you wondered what was wrong with you. Why couldn't you just be grateful? Why couldn't you just stay still? But the truth is, you were never meant to. You were never meant to settle for half light when your spirit was encoded with stars. Feel into this. That uncomfortable tension inside you. That wasn't confusion. It was compression. Spiritual compression. Like something divine trying to push through the cracks of your carefully constructed life. It often showed up at night, didn't it? In those quiet hours when the world slept and your truth stirred. Or during a conversation when someone praised a path that made your chest feel tight. Or in the grocery store aisle where your body was present but your soul drifted far beyond, imagining another reality entirely. You are not crazy. You are not ungrateful. You are not broken. You are awakening. And this awakening doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It comes quietly, painfully, beautifully. In moments of silence so loud they echo through your bones. In moments when the job, the relationship, the house, the plans, they just stop making sense. And for a while you thought maybe you were failing. But no, chosen one, you were being rerouted, recalled. Let me ask you now, when was the first time you felt the shift, not the external one, the inner tremor, the ripple across your knowing? Was it a sudden loss, a betrayal, a dream that crumbled? Or was it something gentler, a lingering discontent you couldn't explain? That moment was sacred. That moment was your soul reclaiming the steering wheel. And though it may have hurt, it was holy. Because you can't carry divine purpose in a life that keeps you small. You see, the ache wasn't just a feeling. It was your map. A map drawn in discomfort, in longing, in emotional echoes you tried to silence. Every time you ignored it, it grew louder. Every time you listened, something shifted. Even if only slightly. You were being prepared, trimmed, polished in secret. You were shedding identities you never chose. And it was messy, lonely, confusing. But it was right. The world never told you this. But I will. That ache was never a weakness. It was your birthright shaking the dust off its wings. It was your billionaire self, already whole, already shining, sending back a signal, a pulse, a reminder. And now that you're hearing this, everything begins to make sense. Not because the ache is gone, but because now you finally know what to call it. It was the call of the future, and you are starting to answer. There are parts of your story that you've downplayed for years. Things you felt as a child that no one around you could explain. The way your body would tense in certain rooms. The way your spirit would cry in silence when others laughed without reason. You were born into a world that rewarded masks, but you could always see through them, and so you learned early to stay quiet about the things that others called strange. You learned how to shapeshift, to survive. But your soul, it never forgot. You were the child who asked questions that made adults uncomfortable. who felt the heaviness in a room before a word was spoken, who saw things in dreams that later came true. You weren't dramatic. You weren't sensitive in a bad way. You were spiritually attuned. Your nervous system wired to pick up frequencies others couldn't hear. While other children drew pictures of the sun and blue skies, you were wondering why people lie, why pain hides behind smiles, why your body tightened around certain people even when they were kind on the surface. You see, you were marked, not with something visible but with a spiritual blueprint etched deep into your soul. The mark wasn't for others to see, it was for you to remember. But life got loud, and you began to forget. You tried to be like them, to talk like them, to feel like them. But no matter how hard you tried, something never clicked. There was always a tension between the world's rhythm and your inner song, and for a long time, you thought the problem was you. You tried so hard to blend in that you began to disappear. You made yourself smaller, quieter, more tolerable. And in that shrinking, something sacred slipped underground. But it didn't die. It waited. It hid in your eyes, in your chest, in the back of your voice. It showed up in poems you never shared, in the notes you wrote to God in your mind, in the moments when no one was watching and your truth peeked out from behind your exhaustion. Let me ask you this. When did you first feel like you didn't belong? Was it in the classroom, at the dinner table, on the playground? What did they say to you that made you question your light? And more importantly, what did you believe because of it? You've been carrying answers to questions no one dared to ask. But today, you get to reclaim your wonder. You get to remember that being different was never your defect, it was your distinction. The world needs what you tried to hide. That tenderness, that insight, that stillness in your presence. The way you feel energy shift like wind through trees. The way you listen to what isn't being said. The way you can sense when someone is lying, even if they're smiling. That's not paranoia. That's discernment. You were born with eyes that pierce through illusion, a heart that holds contradictions without fear. You didn't grow into this. You came here carrying it. And yes, it hurt. Being the one who felt more, noticed more, broke down more often because you were never built for shallow waters. Your soul was designed for depth. And while others played with surface games, you were already diving into mysteries no one explained to you. But what felt like a burden then is your superpower now. Your childhood wasn't random. It was coded. Everything from your silent tears to the books you loved to the way you felt alone in a crowded room. It was all part of your divine wiring. You came here on assignment, chosen one. And though life tried to make you forget, your future self never did. They watched as you made it through the misunderstandings, through the loneliness, through the seasons of being told you were too much, too intense, too strange. But now you know. You were never too much. You were just placed in environments that couldn't hold your light. And now, that light is returning. Not through effort, through remembrance. Take a breath and feel into the child you used to be. The one who felt everything, who knew more than they could explain. Whisper to them now, you weren't wrong, you were gifted, and that gift? It's waking up again. What the world called weakness was always the signal of your sacred power. And now it's time to bring it home. There is a fear that creeps in during the quiet moments, a fear that maybe you missed it, that maybe the years you spent holding on, surviving, trying to make sense of it all, were wasted. That you made a wrong turn somewhere back there, and now the road ahead is too far gone. But breathe with me now, because that fear is a lie. It's not your truth. The timeline you imagined wasn't denied. It was being divinely rearranged. You see, chosen one, the calling on your life was never fragile. It cannot be stolen, it cannot expire, and you haven't missed it. You've been in it all along, you just didn't recognize it while you were in the fire. The world moves fast, It rewards early success. It glorifies youth. But the soul unfolds in divine timing. And your soul has never been in a hurry. Even now, it's not rushing. It's remembering. You have been taught to measure your life by milestones, money, marriage, recognition. But there is a deeper rhythm pulsing through your story, one that doesn't follow the clock, one that cannot be measured by calendars or compared to others. Your purpose is not a destination. It's a becoming. There are seasons of preparation that feel like punishment, times when doors close and nothing makes sense, when it seems like you're invisible, forgotten, left behind. But the truth is, you were in a hidden workshop, being refined, being carved from the inside out. You were not delayed, you were deepened. While others were seen, you were being shaped. While others were moving forward, you were being made whole. Let me remind you of something you forgot while grieving lost years. Diamonds don't shine in the mine, gold isn't beautiful before the fire, and stars are born in silence. You too were becoming something sacred in the dark. There were lessons you had to live, not read, not hear, but feel in your chest. There were places you had to walk through, not because you were weak, but because your calling required real roots. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that's what you've been doing, slowly, painfully, powerfully. Not becoming something new, but stripping away everything that was never you, every mask, every false narrative, every agreement you made with fear. It's all falling off now, and underneath, stillness, clarity, power. Midlife is not a crisis. It is a convergence, a sacred collision of everything you've ever been, everything you've lost, and everything you still are. It's the moment the soul says, "I'm done pretending." And in that honesty, your real life begins. Not the one you inherited, not the one you were conditioned to chase, but the one that was written in your bones before you were born. You have not wasted time. You've survived what should have broken you. You've kept your heart beating through decades of confusion. You've continued to care, even when you were abandoned. You've looked after others while quietly falling apart. And now that strength returns to you, not as exhaustion, but as clarity. Chosen one, this is the turning point. The moment when everything inside you rises to meet everything you've been waiting for. Not because the outer world changes, but because you do. Your perception sharpens, your energy shifts. You stop waiting and start walking, not towards something outside of you, but into the soul you've always been. Let go of the guilt, the what-ifs, the self-punishment. You didn't miss it. You were being forged. You were being trusted with depth others never touch. And now that depth is your anointing. It's what sets you apart. It's what gives you the authority to lead others home, not through theory, but through embodiment. You are not behind. You are right on time. Divine timing doesn't reward speed. It honors readiness. And you, beloved soul, are finally ready. Your past was not a detour. It was a design. Every delay was a sacred no from the universe protecting your yes. Every heartbreak was a cleansing of false attachments. Every job, every city, every relationship you thought was wasted time was a hidden altar preparing your return. So breathe, stand taller, and listen closely. Your future self has never been disappointed in you. They've been waiting, smiling, knowing that one day you would see what they've always seen, that you are not late, you are luminous, you are aligned. And now your becoming begins. There's a sacred kind of silence that comes before something divine. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't perform. It just settles in quietly, shifting the atmosphere, stretching the soul, preparing the spirit. And maybe you didn't know what to call it when it happened to you. Maybe you thought you were lost, forgotten, delayed, but you weren't. You were entering the hidden years, the holy years, the womb of transformation where no one sees but everything is changing. You see, the world loves visibility, it praises momentum, it glorifies noise, but spirit works in stillness. Spirit moves beneath the surface, and you, chosen one, were pulled into that hidden space, not as punishment, but as placement. Like a seed buried beneath soil, you weren't dead. You were growing roots. You were shedding layers. You were being stripped of illusions so that only the true could remain. There were times you begged for the next chapter, times you stared at closed doors with tear-filled eyes. You prayed for answers and got silence. You asked for clarity and got delay. You watched others rise while you stood still. But it wasn't stillness. It was sacred incubation. The silence was speaking. The slowness was strategic. You were in the hands of something higher, being held, being healed. And yes, it was lonely. The kind of lonely that doesn't even feel real. You were surrounded by people, yet unseen. You showed up every day with a smile, but your soul was curled up in a corner somewhere asking, why can't they feel me? You lost things that never made sense to lose. People left without cause. Opportunities slipped through your fingers, and still, you kept going. You kept praying. You kept breathing. That was never wasted, not a moment, not a tear, not a single sleepless night. Because in those hidden years, your spirit was being formed. You were being taught to hear without noise, to see without proof, to walk without applause. You were being made immune to the world's false promises, and in their place, you were being anchored in something eternal. Remember this: greatness grows in the dark. The womb is dark, the soil is dark, the cocoon is dark. But it's in those dark places that life rearranges itself, that identities shift, that old selves die so that new selves can rise. And that's what happened to you. You didn't notice it at first. The change was subtle, but something in you started shedding. The version of you that needed validation began to fade. The version that begged to be chosen was slowly replaced by the one who realized you were always chosen. Those years of not being seen taught you to see yourself. Those years of not being heard taught you to hear your intuition. Those years of not being understood taught you the language of your own soul. And now you speak it fluently. Now you carry something the world can't define, but can't deny either. Let me speak to the part of you that's still grieving what never happened, the job that didn't work, the marriage that fell apart, the passion that felt wasted. You are allowed to mourn. You are allowed to miss the versions of you that died along the way. But don't call those years empty. Don't label them failure. They were fire. They were the sacred forge. They were the holy middle. Because here's the truth. No prophet is born on the mountaintop. They are shaped in deserts, in silence, in exile. And you, chosen one, were taken into the wilderness not to be abandoned, but to be anointed. The world didn't see you coming because God hid you on purpose. But the season of hiding is ending. The silence is lifting, and what emerges now is sacred beyond language. You're not the same. You walk differently. You speak with resonance. You move with intention. You carry an atmosphere that disrupts falsehoods and calls people into remembrance. And none of it came from fame or followers or fast success. It came from the cave, from the sacred dark, from the holy hidden years where no one applauded, but heaven whispered, stay with it. You're almost home. So rest in this. Your delay was design. Your silence was sacred. Your hidden years were holy. And now, the unveiling begins. There's something you learned the hard way. Not everyone is ready for the light you carry. Not everyone will clap when you rise. Some people will disappear the moment you stop dimming. And for years, you thought their absence meant something was wrong with you. But it didn't. It meant your frequency changed. It meant your spirit grew too vast for their comfort zone. You see, being chosen is not a title. It's a tension. a sacred tension between being deeply connected to others and perpetually misunderstood by them. There's an invisible cost to carrying spiritual wealth, a cost no one warns you about. You didn't ask to feel everything. You didn't ask to know things before they happened. You didn't ask to walk into rooms and feel the lies in the atmosphere. But it happened anyway. Because your soul was marked, your path was carved, and your light was too honest to blend in. People were drawn to your warmth, but resented your clarity. They came for comfort, but pulled away when the truth began to reflect back. And still, you tried to make yourself smaller. You softened your voice. You questioned your knowing. You waited for others to see your heart before letting it speak. But no matter how much you adjusted, there was always tension, a quiet rejection, a feeling that people only loved the version of you they could understand. And it hurt because you didn't want to walk alone. You didn't want to be the one who always sensed the undercurrents, who carried other people's emotions in your bones, who had to process betrayal in silence. Chosen one, feel this now. What if the rejection wasn't failure, it was protection? What if their exit was a divine subtraction, not because you weren't worthy, but because your worth was never meant to be negotiated? You were always different, not better, just tuned to a higher frequency, one that made others uncomfortable without you ever saying a word. And for those who weren't ready to rise, your presence felt like pressure. So they pulled away. You didn't lose people. You shed illusions. You didn't push them out. Your growth did. Because energy never lies. And when your soul stepped into its next dimension, those who weren't aligned simply couldn't follow. It's not personal, it's spiritual physics. There's a weight that comes with being spiritually wealthy. It's the weight of carrying clarity in a world addicted to confusion. It's the burden of knowing how deeply others are hurting, even when they pretend they're fine. It's the responsibility of staying soft when life hardens others. And yet, you kept showing up. You kept loving. You kept giving your presence, your peace, your prayers, even when you received nothing in return. That is wealth. Let me ask you something real. How many times have you held space for others, only to be discarded when they felt better? How many times did you offer insight and were called intimidating? How many times did your kindness get mistaken for weakness until your boundaries revealed your strength? That's what happens when you carry light. It exposes, it heals, and sometimes it offends. You were not born to be palatable. You were born to be powerful, not in dominance, but in divine authority. You carry a presence that makes demons tremble and tired souls exhale. You don't have to speak to shift a room. Your very being confronts falsehood, and for those hiding from themselves, you became a mirror they weren't ready to face. So stop apologizing. Stop explaining. Stop folding yourself into digestible pieces so others won't choke on your truth. You were not made for approval. You were made for alignment, and those who are meant for you will find you at your full frequency, not your filtered one. Let them misunderstand you. Let them gossip. Let them label you mysterious, too quiet, too intense. It's not your job to be understood by those who haven't even begun to understand themselves. It's your job to keep rising, to keep honoring the wisdom in your chest, to keep loving without leaking, to keep standing in truth even when it's lonely. Because here's what's true: the ones who rejected you will remember. They'll hear your name in rooms you've never entered. They'll feel your absence louder than they ever felt your presence. And when they realize what they lost, it won't be ego, it'll be recognition. The spiritual kind, the kind that only comes after it's too late. But don't look back, don't chase. Don't try to explain the light to those who close their eyes. Just walk. Walk with grace. Walk with discernment. Walk like the spiritual billionaire you already are, wealthy in wisdom, rich in presence, abundant in peace. And let your becoming be the response to every misunderstanding they ever had. You've spent years searching outward, looking for signs, longing for someone to confirm what you've always quietly known. You listened to advice that never fit. You followed maps drawn by other people's fears. You silenced the voice in your chest because the world told you it wasn't practical. But chosen one, the compass never left. It was never broken. It just got buried beneath noise, shame, and the weight of survival. But breathe with me now, because that inner compass, it still works. There's a knowing inside you that doesn't shout, it doesn't compete, it waits, patiently. It speaks in chills, in gut reactions, in the sudden urge to leave a room, in the unexplainable pull towards something you haven't seen with your eyes but feel in your bones. That's your soul speaking, that's your divine intelligence guiding you, and it's time you trust it again. You see, spiritual wealth isn't just about wisdom, it's about navigation. And you were born with a system inside you more advanced than anything this world can offer. You just forgot how to listen, not because you're weak, but because life taught you to distrust your instincts. It taught you to favor logic over truth, to ask for permission before moving, to wait for confirmation that never came. But your future self didn't wait. They remembered. They followed the thread in the dark, the one that didn't always make sense, but always felt right. That thread lives in you too. It tugs at your spirit when something's off. It hums when you're in the right place. It whispers, yes, when no one else understands. And now, it's growing louder. Let's be honest. There were times you knew the truth before it unfolded. Times you sensed the breakup, the betrayal, the ending, long before the evidence appeared. You didn't need proof. You felt it. And still, you doubted yourself. You second-guessed. You asked others what they thought, hoping they'd reflect your knowing back to you, but they couldn't, because your map wasn't theirs to read. Chosen one, your soul doesn't need to be explained, it needs to be honored, and the way you honor it is by trusting the signal, even when you don't have the full picture, even when it leads you into unfamiliar places, especially then, because intuition doesn't operate in logic, it lives in resonance. Have you ever entered a space and felt your whole body contract? That wasn't fear, that was wisdom. Or met someone who looked perfect on paper but made your stomach twist. That wasn't judgment, that was guidance. Or walked away from something you couldn't justify leaving, only to find peace waiting on the other side. That wasn't coincidence, that was your compass. You don't have to see the whole path to take the next step. You just have to trust the next yes. And when the yes comes, move. Don't wait for applause. Don't ask for proof. Don't explain yourself. Move with the quiet confidence of someone who's done doubting their own knowing. The thread that connects you to your destiny is invisible to others. That's why they won't always understand. That's why it feels lonely sometimes. But that loneliness is sacred. It creates space for you to hear yourself again, for you to realign with what you forgot in the noise. Let this be your reminder. You still know. You know what's for you. You know who's draining your energy. You know when something doesn't sit right. And you know when your spirit says, yes, this is it. That's the compass, that's the call. That's your divine navigation system waking up again. And here's the truth. Your future self is proof that it works. They got to where they are not by following trends, but by following truth. They turned inward when the world went outward. They got quiet when everyone else got loud. And that quiet, it led to clarity. That clarity became courage. And that courage became a whole new life. You don't have to figure it all out today. Just return. Return to the still place inside you. Return to the breath. Return to the part of you that never forgot. Feel the compass now. It's not broken. It's not weak. It's alive. And it's pointing home. Trust it. Trust you. The compass in your chest still works. And it's leading you to everything they said you'd never find. There comes a moment in the life of the chosen one when the familiar starts to fall away, not with drama, not with noise, but with a quiet finality that only the soul can hear. People stop calling. Opportunities stop flowing. The places you once found comfort begin to feel tight, like clothes that no longer fit. And for a while, you wonder if you're doing something wrong. You ask yourself if you're sabotaging your life, if you're losing your edge, if you're slipping backward. But you're not. You're shifting. You're being recalled. And when that recall begins, nothing can stop it. It doesn't arrive with a loud announcement. It begins as a hum, a sense, a soft internal nudge that says, "This is over now." And it's strange because nothing might be obviously wrong. The job is stable, the friendships are functional, the routines are familiar. But something inside you starts pulling away. It's not boredom, it's a sacred release, a spiritual exhale. The gate is opening, and even if you don't yet know where it leads, your soul already knows it's time to walk. You may try to ignore it. You may try to cling tighter to what's crumbling. You may even beg the old to feel like home again. But it won't, and it never will. Because once the soul starts moving, it doesn't turn back. The people you were once deeply connected to now feel distant. Conversations feel hollow. The goals that used to excite you now feel heavy. And that isn't depression. It's the grief of becoming. Chosen one. You are not falling apart. You are dissolving out of false alignments. You're exiting a version of yourself that was only meant to carry you this far. There is no failure in outgrowing. There is no shame in releasing. You were never meant to stay where you started. You were meant to evolve. And now the gate between chapters is swinging open. Have you felt it? That quiet certainty that something is done, even if you can't explain why. That internal clarity that says, "I can't unknow this now." That's the moment the gate opens. That's when your spiritual timeline shifts. And though the world around you might still look the same, everything inside you has already moved. The timing is divine. The knowing is yours. This moment is not an accident. The recall was written into your soul's blueprint. Your future self has always known this day would come. And they're not panicked. They're not confused. They've already seen what waits on the other side of your obedience. They've already walked through this portal, and they're holding space for you to step through too. Yes, it hurts to leave, even when you're leaving something you've outgrown, because endings carry echoes of comfort, of memories, of who you used to be. But let me remind you, nothing real is ever lost. The people, places, and roles that are aligned with your next season will rise with you. The rest will gently fall away, and that is not your failure. It is your freedom. What are you still holding on to that already released you? What are you trying to revive that has no breath left in it? Let it go. Not with bitterness, not with blame, with reverence. Thank it for getting you this far. Thank it for teaching you what it needed to. And then, walk on. Not because you have all the answers, but because your inner compass is saying yes. You don't need anyone else to understand. This gate was not built for crowds. It's narrow, it's personal, it's sacred, and only you can walk through it, alone, awake, aligned. You don't owe the old you an explanation. You don't owe anyone permission to change. You only owe your truth a response. Chosen one, your soul knows when a cycle is complete. Your body feels it before your mind does. You are not imagining this shift. You are responding to it. And with every step you take in obedience to that knowing, your life realigns. People will fall away. Doors will close. The path will narrow. But the light will grow. This is the recall. This is the sacred transition between who you were and who you are becoming. It is not a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. The gate is open now. You don't need a sign. You don't need another delay. You only need the courage to say yes to what your soul already knows. And when you do, everything changes. The old world will no longer hold you. The new one will begin to unfold, and you'll walk through that gate, not lost, not late, not broken, but ready, remembered, recalled. There is a sacred moment in every chosen one's life when the shift becomes visible. Not to you, you felt it for a long time, but to them, the ones who dismissed you, the ones who ignored the depth you carried, the ones who took your presence for granted because they thought you'd always be available. Suddenly they begin to notice, but by the time they look up, you're already gone. Not in bitterness, not in revenge, but in alignment. You didn't force it. You didn't storm out. You just stopped returning to what was draining you. You stopped begging to be seen. You stopped trying to fit where you never truly belonged. And that silence, it spoke louder than anything you ever said. You became the echo in their life they never expected. Not a loud one, a quiet void where your presence used to live. A peaceful absence that began to haunt them. Chosen one, this is the hour where your growth becomes undeniable. You've spent years being overlooked, underestimated, misunderstood. They thought your kindness meant weakness. They mistook your silence for lack of depth. But what they never realized is that you were evolving. You were shedding. You were rising in ways they couldn't see. And now, the light in you has outgrown the spaces that once felt safe. It is not your job to make them understand. It is not your duty to go back and explain your journey to those who mocked your pain. You tried that already. You offered grace. You gave chances. You lowered your frequency just to be relatable. But now you are unreachable. Not because you disappeared, but because you expanded. You see, there are people who only understand your worth once you've walked away. They needed your absence to recognize your value. They needed your silence to hear what your presence had been saying all along. But by the time they come around, you won't be the same. You won't be waiting. You won't be checking your phone, hoping they see you now. Because you've remembered who you are. You've become the butterfly they can't catch, the vision they can't forget, the light they try to replicate but can't access because it was never theirs to carry. They'll scroll through your life, trying to find the version of you that stayed small, but that version no longer exists. That version evolved. That version flew. And no, this isn't about superiority. It's about sovereignty. You are no longer emotionally available for the roles you've outgrown. You are no longer dimming your wisdom to keep others comfortable. You've walked through too much to shrink again. This shift was earned through silence, through tears, through sacred nights where you questioned everything and still chose to rise. They will look for you. In conversations where your insight used to live. In prayers they never told you, they whispered. In moments when their own spirit begins to shake, and they remember that you were the only one who understood. And by then, it will be too late. You are not being cruel. You are being called. And the calling requires distance. The calling requires release. The calling requires that you no longer try to rescue people from lessons their soul still needs. Some people will awaken because of your presence. Others will awaken because of your absence. You must trust the difference. Let them wonder where you went. Let them retrace their steps. Let them sit in the space you used to hold. You were never meant to be someone's lifeboat while drowning yourself. You were meant to walk in wholeness, to lead by light, to honor the rhythm of your becoming. This moment is sacred. It's the season of divine separation. You are being removed not because of ego, but because of evolution. The road ahead is too high, too holy, too narrow for those who clung to the old version of you. And if they were meant to rise with you, they would have answered the call too. So when they look for you, don't feel guilty. Don't apologize for disappearing from spaces that didn't nourish you. Don't explain your healing. Don't justify your boundaries. Just keep walking, eyes forward, heart clean, spirit grounded. They'll look for you, chosen one, and you'll be gone. Not in bitterness, but in blessing. Not in anger, but in ascension. Not because you gave up, but because you finally remembered what you were always meant to be. Whole, free, home, chosen. One, this is not the end. This is the return. The return to yourself. The return to the version of you that never broke, even when everything else did. The return to the dream that never died, even when your hope went silent. You've walked through the fire, and now you shine without trying. You radiate without reaching. You move without explaining. Because the silence wasn't a punishment, it was preparation. The waiting wasn't wasted time, it was holy training. And now, your future self is not a fantasy, it's rising within you. You have always been becoming. Even when it felt like you were falling apart, you were falling into place. Even when the doors slammed shut, they were guiding you to the one that only opens from the inside. And now, you've reached the threshold. Everything that once broke you is behind you. Everything that is true is calling you forward. And this time you walk with no apology, no fear, no doubt. Feel this in your chest. That weight lifting? That's you letting go of every lie you ever believed about who you were not. That chill up your spine? That's alignment returning. That exhale you just took? That's your nervous system remembering that you are safe now. Safe to rise, safe to shine, safe to walk in the fullness of your light. There will be moments ahead that feel surreal. You'll look around and realize you are standing inside prayers you forgot you prayed. You'll speak words that feel too wise for your age, and then remember, you've lived lifetimes in a single decade. You'll experience peace in situations that used to rattle you because chaos no longer has permission to enter your space. You've become the calm. You've become the clarity. You've become the voice that once comforted others and now comforts you. Your billionaire self was never about status. It was about substance, the kind of wealth that cannot be stolen, the kind that walks into a room and raises the frequency, the kind that needs no introduction, the kind that carries heaven in its tone and wisdom in its silence. That version of you? It's not coming, it's here. And it's unfolding, moment by sacred moment, choice by sovereign choice. So let the old roles fall, let the outdated identities fade, let the borrowed beliefs dissolve. You are no longer available for anything less than full alignment. You are no longer interested in begging for spaces that never saw you. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are choosing yourself, and the world will respond, not immediately, not always visibly, but energetically. Reality bends for those who remember who they are. Time reconfigures for those who stop rushing. Doors open for those who stop knocking and start walking in authority. And you, chosen one, are now walking in that sacred rhythm. Look around. The signs are everywhere. The numbers that follow you. The repeated messages in dreams. The feeling that something huge is just on the edge of breaking through. That's not a coincidence. That's confirmation. You're not imagining the shift. You're standing in it. Declare this to your soul. I remember who I am. I trust the timing of my rising. I no longer seek outside what was always placed within. I carry the light of the one who made it. And I honor every step that brought me here. Comment 1111. If you know this message wasn't just words, it was your future self sending a signal through time, a soul message, a divine dispatch, a reminder that you are not waiting for anything. You are awakening to everything. And if this video found you during a moment when the world felt heavy, then know this. This space is a sanctuary. Come back here anytime your soul forgets. Come back when you need to breathe. Come back when the world gets loud and your truth gets buried. You didn't just watch a video, you received a prophecy. And now it's yours to walk in. Stay grounded, stay honest, stay open. Your billionaire self isn't far away. They are already within you, waiting for your next yes. The recall has already begun. The rising is already in motion. Now go. Go become the one who already remembers you.